and welcome to episode 92 of Magic Rays of Light, a podcast exploring the world of Apple TV and so much more. I am, of course, your host, Sigmund Judge, and with Devon being away, we have a very special guest host this time. It's been a while since he was last on the podcast. You will know him as Apple Watcher and the avatar that is an Apple Watch, yet despite the fitness regime, you'll see increasingly more social media posts about Apple's originals and what he's watching. Amjad, welcome back to Magic Rays of Light.
Thanks, Sigmund. It's been a while since we last spoke. It's been a busy old week, so I'm looking forward to having a chat about all things Apple.
Yeah, you know what? It has been a crazy week. And that means we have a packed show this week, including the week's Apple TV releases, along with our Up Next picks, a brief overview of tvOS 17, which will be releasing just in the coming days. Very excited for that. But first, a recap of this week's special Apple event from an Apple TV perspective, of course, starting with some prediction results. Now, as a special guest, Amjad, you are, of course, a special adjudicator for the results of the prediction game that Devon and I play every episode prior to Apple's special events. We had to give 5 picks, which were worth 1 point, along with our out there picks worth 3 points. How did we do?
Sigmund, you got 2 correct, and Devon, commiserations, you got 0. So you are the winner, Sigmund. Congratulations, well done.
Here is a quick message from, I don't want to say the loser, but, you know, the loser.
Hey friends, Devon here. I just wanted to pop in and say congratulations to Sigmund for his victory on our prediction game. I was feeling pretty confident going into the event that I was going to clinch the victory here, that my predictions were going to be correct. I'm not really sure what happened. I think I'm going to have to rethink my strategy for next time. But the best picks won. I'm hoping Apple has a lot of events for us next year so I can redeem myself, maybe even pull ahead. We'll just have to wait and see. But I hope everyone had fun at the event, had fun keeping up with our predictions. Congratulations again to Sigmund on a well-earned victory, and back to the show.
Always gracious in defeat is Devon, and yes, alongside him, I think we both had a blast watching this keynote. I want to start very quickly just to say how much of an emotional roller coaster of a keynote this was for me personally. Lots have skipped past it, but a quick moment to talk about the opening video on Apple Watch, Heart Survivors. It was beautifully shot, told a really captivating story, and as someone who is a survivor of heart conditions from the age of 8, revived during that time as well, there was a lot on screen that I was able to resonate with. A lot of people will obviously look at this po-faced and go, oh, yet another advert of Apple telling us to buy a device to save our lives. The title was The Birthday They Thought They'd Never Have. And being that it was my birthday the day after, you can imagine I was a wreck and a state, and I think I hit it quite well from my guest who was over to watch the keynote with me. What was your thoughts on this opening video, and did it hit you as much as it did me?
I agree, Sigmund. Yeah, you can be per-faced about these things, but I think it genuinely made you think about the individuals involved and how big an impact the Apple Watch had on them. It literally saved their lives, as you say, and it is... I thought the title, The Birthday They Thought They Never Had, was a bit too on the nose, maybe too in your face, but absolutely, I thought it was a really emotional opening and really got across in a really powerful way the benefit of having an Apple Watch.
Well, judging by the avatar that you use on social media, I think the Apple Watch has had a profound impact on you and your day-to-day life. I keep getting dings about your runs. I personally am just getting back on that journey of filling my activity rings each and every day. Tell us about Apple Watch Series 9, because on the outside, not a lot has changed, but on the inside, there's loads of benefits here.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, the hardware looks very similar, if not identical, to the Series 8. But on the inside, it's got a brand new S9 SIP that gives it a 60% increase in the CPU. It's got a brand new neural engine, which takes over a lot of the machine learning tasks, such as on-device Siri processing. What that means is it makes Siri as instant on the Apple Watch as it is on your other devices. It also increases the accuracy of dictation by 25%, and Siri Health queries are going to be available later this year in both English and Mandarin. So all of the changes really are on the inside, and it sounds like a really powerful device.
Yeah, let's talk about these Siri Health queries. Obviously, a screen that flashed so many different queries. Were there any that stood out to you? For me, going up and down stairs a lot in this house. I want to know how many flights of stairs I've done. But yeah, is there anything specific to you that you would check out, especially now that Siri dictation is on board and therefore much faster?
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be things like being able to start a run quickly using Siri. And the other thing which we haven't mentioned is, and I think this might be a feature of watchOS 10, but correct me if I'm wrong, rather than having to say, hey Siri, you can just use the phrase Siri and start talking. So that's going to make things even faster. So yeah, maybe starting a run, maybe controlling my music. So yeah, should be a lot quicker and a lot faster and a lot more accurate.
Talking of fast and accurate, let's talk about the new chip, not just coming to the new Apple Watch Series 9, but also coming to phones. Ultra wideband has got an upgrade. The UWB2 chip, the upgrade from the U1 chip, couldn't be called U2 for obvious reasons. Really exciting to see this, because not only is it going to increase accuracy, it's going to also possibly help within not only the home, but also finding devices and finding people, as we will find out a little bit later in this conversation. Also a big upgrade, the screen brightness, but it goes two ways. 2000 nits now at the peak brightness, going all the way down to 1 nit, and I will tell you, this made me very happy as someone that is a constant cinema goer. The amount of Apple Watches and iPhones that don't get put into theater mode, this is going to at least reduce some of those screens. The huge addition, I think, to Apple Watch Series 9 is the mainstreamification of the double tap gesture that's going to work with the Apple Watch. And this is coming sometime next month. What I mean by double tap is it is a simple double tap of both your thumb and your index finger together for actions on your Apple Watch. It's a little bit like what we saw demoed for Apple Vision Pro, which makes me think that there's maybe Apple kind of slowly teaching people about this gesture, a bit like we had with pinch to zoom in the early days of iOS on iPhone and iPad. You're going to be able to do a number of things, like, for example, play pause on Apple TV in the middle of a viewing session. I loved that particular demo. Taking a photo on iPhone through the camera extension on Apple Watch, and my favorite, hanging up a call, because the gesture is like you making a puppet hand. It can be, at least. And that means that's going to be perfect for the small number of cold calls that get through to me, where I'm making a puppet hand and I'm almost mimicking their mouth and stopping the call. Maybe a little passive aggressive from my side there, Amjad. What I'm interested in, though, is, this is very similar to what we've seen for a number of years, right? And that is assistive touch, which allowed you to not only single tap, but clench your fist or even flick your wrist to navigate the entirety of watchOS. This new double tap feature that is exclusive to Watch Series 9, however, will only be active when a little blue bubble is displayed on watchOS to prompt you on when double tap gestures work. There isn't at the moment a way for developers to code expected actions for their apps, at least yet. And it's locked to Series 9 hardware when all of the evidence with assistive touch suggests that it could have technically come to all watches dating back all the way to Series 4. What would you use Double Tap for?
So I think, as you said, the sizzle reel was really good with some really practical day-to-day examples. For me, it's probably when I'm in the kitchen and I've got a timer going off, if I've got some pasta boiling and, I've got one hand busy and it's like, oh, it's tapping me. So I'd probably use it for that. I think the one they showed in the morning about wearing your watch to track your sleep and having the alarm going off in the morning. So again, that could be quite a good one. Just, lift your arm up, tap your fingers to turn the alarm off. I think it's going to save my nose from a lot of tapping on the watch, which is what I do at the moment when I can't use my other hand. My nose gets a lot used, so it's going to save that. But yeah, it's one of those relatively small updates, which is going to have a really big day-to-day difference in how people use a watch. So yeah, really looking forward to this launching next month.
Now, I'm not upgrading my watch this year, but someone in my family is, and that's my grandmother. She's had a hand-me-down Series 4 for a little while. The battery started to drain, so we traded the watch in just last week in preparation, and I told her about this double tap. She said, how does that work? On top of that, though, we also got an Apple Watch Ultra 2 announcement, which includes all of the S9 features that we've talked about, plus an improved altimeter calculating altitude and depth by the second, a night mode, which is automatic between day and night, and a screen that goes all the way up to, and prepare yourselves, 3,000 nits of brightness. On any other screen, we'd see Dolby Vision certification. But of course, on a watch, there's no need. But we'll talk about that again in a little bit. Of course, in the middle of the keynote, we had a infomercial about a very important promise from Apple as a company for not just Apple customers, but for the world. It was presented in a different way because in previous keynotes, we have had the breakdown of Apple's 2030 carbon zero pledge and how they were getting there. This time, we got a dramatized version of that with some comedic effect starring Kayla Monteroso-Mayer alongside Octavia Spencer as Mother Nature and Apple executives including Lisa Jackson and Tim Cook. I personally thought this was a new and interesting take on delivering that message. Maybe a little bit long, definitely a little bit cringeworthy, but you know what? It made me laugh a lot, and I feel like got the message across in a better way. Maybe we could have done without it being recapped straight after by Lisa Jackson, but thankfully they didn't leave her on the roof like they did a few years ago when we all got a little bit concerned. What are your thoughts? Did you like Tim Cook's acting chops? Should he be applying for that SAG-AFTRA membership right away?
I think Tim Cook's wasted in his current role. Sigmund, I think we'll see him coming to some new Apple TV series sometime next year, potentially, based on his performance.
He might have to, right? With the strikes ongoing.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I thought it was something different. I thought it was unusual. We don't get that in every keynote. Definitely agree on the point about it potentially being a bit too long and a bit of the cringe factor. But overall, no, I enjoyed it. Like you say, it's a different way of getting the message across. Adds a bit of humour to it, to what otherwise potentially could have been a really short keynote. So what Apple are doing is committing to not using any plastic in their packaging by the end of next year. They're also going to be using 100% recycled aluminium across both their iPad and MacBook ranges. And they are now running every Apple office and data center on 100% clean energy. So yeah, really, really fantastic.
Yeah, something that Apple have been stating actually for the last few years, which is really, really cool. So it's nice to see that commitment being thought out. The Apple Watch Series 9 is going to be the first carbon zero product, and you'll be able to see that signified with a new logo on the packaging, which is, again, new packaging. a lot slimmer, making things easier to transport. Tim, of course, got a few memorable moments for himself with some great deadpan. But, Craig Federighi already has had many memeable moments. And earlier this year, he went one better with a live guitar solo at the talk show with John Gruber, which I was at. It was fantastic. Therefore, I'm going to say it, Tim. You got to step it up. I'm suggesting a double act, maybe featuring a rendition of Andrea Bocelli's Con te Partiro, a la the Catalina wine mixer performance at the end of Step Brothers, a great falsetto from Will Ferrell for those that have seen the film. Part of the environmental messaging which has an impact on customers right now is the pledge not to use leather across Apple's accessory lines going forward. Some thoughts, because I think you've got some early hands-on with some of the early products that started shipping to customers as soon as the announcement was over. I know you're one of them.
I have indeed, yep. So I ordered one of the fine woven MagSafe cases for the iPhone 15, and it actually arrived a day early, which was a bit of a surprise. I've had a play around with it, and it's something I'm not 100% convinced with, if I'm honest.
Okay.
It does feel very smooth to the touch, as Apple said, so it's quite a suede-like material on the back. My one concern is how it's going to hold up over time. I think the leather cases were quite durable. I think I had mine for a couple of years on the iPhone 12. This, I'm not sure how it's going to react with all your sort of day-to-day use, all the oils from your fingers, and already it's turning into a bit of a lint magnet. So I think time's going to tell, but could be a tricky one, I think.
So silicone cases may be the way to go forward. Of course, leather cases will be available from third parties as well. One thing I will say is I love my leather MagSafe wallet. I have my iPhones without cases, and I use the leather MagSafe wallet as my grip. I'm a little bit worried about the new material kind of maybe being a little more slippery, a little more slidey. One thing also that I'm a little bit worried about is a certain noise that I think is going to become mainstream. Maybe something we haven't really heard since the days of early hip-hop. Maybe even late 90s new metal. I'm pretty sure everyone was looking for this sound when putting together a new metal band back then.
How does that sound?
Sounds awful. Let's talk about the iPhone 15 presentation. I personally think this is probably the most impressive product out of this line for quite some time. We have the A16 Bionic from last year's iPhone 14 Pro alongside Dynamic Island. We have Dolby Vision coming to the normal iPhone courtesy of an XDR screen that can do up to 1600 nits, and in sunny conditions 2000 nits. That's 2 times brighter than last year. We have a new 2 times zoom using a 48 megapixel camera, which allows for a full 24 megapixel high resolution on pictures that you take. And not only that, we have something that I think you and I are really, really excited for, and that is next generation portrait. How do these work?
So these automatically detect where there's a human or animal subject in the frame, and they automatically take the depth map information, which means that after the effect, so once you go into your camera roll, you can choose the option to change the photo into a portrait picture. So it's really useful for those times where, and I've done this myself, where you're taking a picture and then after the fact you think, oh, I wish I'd done that as a portrait, just to capture the image as a portrait picture, whether that be your kids or whether that be your dog. So I think it's going to be a really fantastic change and really improve the quality of everyone's photos.
It almost reminds me of an old camera system that was announced years and years ago. I don't really think it went anywhere, but the technology behind it was amazing, where it basically was taking the metadata of the light around the subject, and then you were able to shift what was in focus back then. To think that this technology is coming to everyone's phone is insane, and it's not been reserved for the Pro phone. There are obviously features we're going to get into when we get there. I am really, really excited about this, mainly for the reason I never have actually taken too many portrait photos, because they actually take quite a while to process from the moment that you click the shutter button. And so every photo has the potential to be a portrait photo. I think it's incredible. We also got the ultra wideband 2 upgraded, as we talked about before. What's interesting about it is that it covers 3 times the find distance and can also be used to find a friend's location should they also have the latest watch or phone. In a few years' time, everyone will. This is going to be great, I think, and I'm sure people have had this experience recently in the summer months. If you're going to a music festival or even a gig, you're always going to get separated from your friends in a crowd. You're going to be able to get back together so quickly. Really, really cool. Not only that, in terms of accuracy, we also got an upgrade for SOS on iPhone. Again, coming down to the normal iPhone this time, with the addition of roadside assistance. I don't drive, but I will tell you, I've been many a time in a situation where I've been in a car, it's broken down, especially on big highways across the United States. It's happened. It's not been fun, and we've had to wait for a AAA to come and pick us up. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so this builds on the SOS emergency feature from last year, which allowed you to get help from the emergency services if you were in an area without any cellular connection. So this is, as you say, for roadside assistance. So imagine the scenario where you break down, you get your phone out to try and contact someone, but realise you don't have any cellular signal. So this allows you to connect to the satellites, be able to explain what your situation is, what help you need, and then someone hopefully from AAA will come out to you and get you back on the road. So initially it's going to be US only via AAA. But I'm really hoping this comes to us in the UK, potentially via the AA, as we call it here in the UK. So, again, really good feature that comes with the standard iPhone 15.
Going back to the screens and compatibility now, something that we've buried deep into our conversation that is worth talking about, of course, is the transition from Lightning to USB Type-C. We will get USB 2.0 speeds on the normal iPhones. So there will be a differentiation there between the normal iPhone and the iPhone Pro, which we'll get into in a moment. But all iPhone models are going to support DisplayPort for up to 4K 60Hz HDR output to external displays. And also, thanks to USB Type-C, you'll be able to charge AirPods and Apple Watch via iPhone. I know I've been stuck in a rut where I have no way of charging my AirPods just to get that extra bit of juice when I thought I'd charged them before I left the house, especially going to the gym or something like that. And I'm a single person, so knowing that I've just got myself to cater for, you with a whole family, I can only imagine how many times you've been caught out.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really handy feature to have on the iPhone. And he's say just in those circumstances where you just need that extra bit of juice just to charge your AirPods. For me, sometimes I find the Apple Watch, especially if I've been out for a really, really long run first thing in the morning and I've got to go through the whole day with my Apple Watch, just having that ability just to give it that extra little charge towards the end of the day, I think it's going to be really useful.
Now, no matched USB Type-C cord colours, but we do have some interesting colours for the iPhone 15 range. Quite muted colors because of the change in the chassis. We have a subtle change in design with rounded edges and also a frosted back covering. And of course, pink, I think, is sold out everywhere at the point that we're talking right now, probably due to the popularity of the Barbie movie from earlier this year. Very, very cool to see. Let's talk about iPhone 15 Pro now. And I want to talk about the finishes because, as everyone predicted, titanium is the new Pro material. We have titanium in natural, which I think looks really, really nice, white, blue, and black titanium. I want to talk about this because they were talking about the coating method that they were using. Interesting to see how different that is compared to the PVD coating that we saw on the older titanium Apple Watch models from a couple of years ago, which didn't do so well in terms of durability. It's kind of a brushed effect now compared to the sleek, kind of shiny effect that we got on previous generations. What's your take on the finishes, first and foremost?
So I think they all look fantastic, if I'm honest. I think natural titanium particularly has caught my eye.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to having a phone that isn't a fingerprint magnet. As much as the current iPhone Pros look fantastic when they're nice and clean and shiny, they don't last long. They get covered in smudges and fingerprints. So I'm looking forward to having a bit of a matte look on my iPhone Pros. So yeah, I think they all look really fantastic, if I'm honest. And being lighter is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The Pro phones are going to be just 10% heavier than the regular iPhone 15, which is a massive upgrade. A huge, huge point of contention, I think, previously when comparing the Pro phones and the normal phones. I always picked up the normal phones on display at Apple stores and kind of went, oh, this feels perfect. Really looking forward to that. Now, when you get an iPhone, I think in the first couple of weeks is when you're likely to crack the screen because you're getting used to the feel and weight of the phone in your hands. And maybe even the last 2 weeks because you're becoming careless before possibly trading it in. Both have definitely happened to me from personal experience. The good thing about the Pro phone now is that it's more repairable due to a new internal structure, meaning that the back glass can be replaced directly instead of having to have the whole chassis replaced, which is really expensive, even on AppleCare Plus. On top of that, though, USB-C free speeds on the iPhone 15 Pro compared to the normal iPhone. However, the USB-C cable that comes with the phone is for USB-C 2 speeds only. You'll have to get an additional high-speed USB-C 240 watt cable to do that from Apple. Although what I would say is check all of your existing USB-C to USB-C cables to see if you have a high-speed cable, and you should be good. The reason why you'll probably need a high-speed cable is for the cameras, and we're going to talk about the upgrades very quickly. The main sensor is now formed of a quad core that now shoots in 24 megapixels instead of 12 megapixels, meaning enhanced detail with the same low light performance from last year's iPhone 14 Pro. Some other details includes a nanoscale coating to reduce lens flare, which I think is going to be great for everyone, unless your name is Zack Schneider. And of course, you can choose your default lens. That means a choice of a focal length from 24mm, 28mm, or 35mm. You can also shoot 48 megapixels in good lighting conditions to HEF, and not just Pro RAW, meaning shareable file sizes with increased detail. And on top of all of that, as a Pro, if you're shooting big files, especially raw files, you're going to run out of memory very, very quickly. The USB-C port on the iPhone 15 Pro will allow for you to connect an external hard drive whilst you're shooting and have that automatically transfer wirelessly to your Mac via compatible software. But that's not all.
So yeah, Apple have replaced the mute toggle switch with an action button, which you have to hold down, and it can do a number of actions, including launching an app, turning on a focus mode, or launching a shortcut. So there's lots of opportunities to customize it to whatever you'd like. You can program one action, but I believe you can further customize it, so you can have different actions per focus mode. So yeah, lots of opportunities to customize it to your heart's content. So really looking forward to having a play once I get my phone.
I think initially the thing that I think most people are going to use this for is maybe turning on Do Not Disturb. But I think the one that probably is going to make a lot of sense, especially to photo takers and creatives, is holding down that button to immediately launch the camera app, and then your finger's already on the button to take a photo, which I think is perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing what the likes of Federico Viticci over at Mac Stories and Matthew Cassanelli, who was previously a member of the Shortcuts team before they went to Apple and has been a guest on this show. Really looking forward to seeing what they do with this button. It's going to be some amazing things from the Shortcuts community. Cannot wait to check that out. Let's talk about the camera again, because one of the massive things for me watching this keynote and being super, super excited for Apple Vision Pro was something that came out of nowhere really for me, because I remember being at Dub, talking to everyone and going, wow, stereoscopic 3D capture on the Apple Vision Pro headset. As weird as it might have looked during that demo to see a father taking video of his kids and kind of being disconnected from that moment, something that is far more acceptable is having that same experience on a phone. And everyone I talked to was like, we might get it in 3 years. So I'm blown away that Apple announced that you'll be able to shoot spatial video later this year using the ultra-wide and main camera lenses combined to capture a stereoscopic image. I'm really, really excited about this. My question will be two, really. What happens to those memories on 2D displays? As, of course, I wouldn't want to capture a memory and then have that locked away from people that don't have Vision Pro and from family and friends who can't use it due to either partial or depreciating vision. So that's really important to me. My thought is, as soon as I saw this, I'm just going to shoot everything in spatial video. I know as a family man, there's going to be memories that you want to capture. I know Devon is super, super excited for this, because even when we were talking, he was like, it's going to be a couple of years and I'm sad because I'm going to miss the first couple of years of Noah and those early memories. I know he's pre-ordered the iPhone 15 Pro Max ready specifically for this feature and for Vision Pro next year. I, on the other hand, I found the Vision Pro story to be really emotional because I had the same thoughts, but I guess in the reverse. I have grandparents who I love to bits, and I want to be able to capture every fleeting moment that I have with them. What's your take on this? And also, are you worried about the file sizes that obviously all of this data is going to take up, maybe?
Yeah, I think they're going to be absolutely huge, aren't they, the file sizes? But yeah, absolutely agree with you. I think having that easy way of capturing spatial videos with something that's in your pocket rather than having to put the headset on, make sure it's charged, put the battery in your pocket, I think it takes you out of the moment, doesn't it? And I agree that video became very memed on. So yeah, just being able to record it with your phone is going to be so much easier. I guess the one question I've got, and I couldn't tell on the keynote, is this going to be a separate mode? Or is it just going to be taking spatial video alongside your normal video? I think there's quite a few details that we need to work through as the months go on.
Yeah, I'd imagine that they're going to be separate modes. I suspect we'll find out probably as soon as iOS 17.1 beta, which is probably only a couple of weeks away. Interestingly, I think the spatial video capture is going to be harnessed by the first Pro chip at 3 nanometers. That is the A17 Pro, with a Pro class GPU having a 20% increase thanks to an extra core, including hardware accelerated ray tracing. And where that comes in really, really interesting is, of course, the big gaming focus this year. In theory, you could hook the iPhone 15 Pro up to an external display, connect a Bluetooth controller, and you've got a games console. Not only with you, but something that you can plug into the big screen as well. Are you blown away by this as much as I am? Because I can tell you the engineering teams at Apple, what they've done for Apple's gaming story in such a short space of time, at least publicly, is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it looked absolutely amazing. There was a big focus on this as part of the demo, and just having the ability to play console-level games on something that fits in your pocket. I think even being able to do, as you say, hardware accelerated ray tracing on a mobile phone, it looked massive. And just some of the demos that they were able to show in terms of how good games look with ray tracing, absolutely mind-blowing. So I think it's going to be really huge for gaming on the iPhone 15 Pro going forward.
Yeah, I'm not a big gamer, but I'll tell you, I have both consoles. I just don't have the time necessarily to play them. I know this is a problem that a few of my friends, especially new dads, are having themselves. To have full quality console games coming to iOS is mind-boggling to me. There may be some issues maybe with having maps that small on an iPhone screen, maybe, but to see the likes of Assassin's Creed Mirage, which isn't an old game, it's a game that's coming next month to popular consoles. Then remakes of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Village coming to the iPhone. And we had the announcement at WWDC of Death Stranding coming to Mac. It's coming to iPhone as well via Hideo Kojima. My mind is blown, to be quite honest with you. And not just about where we are today, but where we could be in the future. I want to talk about the fact that the Apple TV is run by older A chips that were previously in iPhones. When we get to the point where the Apple TV receives the same GPU and SoC as the current iPhone 15 Pro, I think it's going to look like a completely different product for a completely different audience. I don't think we have too long to wait even. But until then, Death Stranding, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Village game saves will begin on my iPhone. Cannot wait. Also opens up a bright future for console games running natively on Apple devices, and honestly, once FIFA makes it over, I probably don't need a console and the need to be paying a subscription to play those games online anymore. I think that's going to be a massive bonus for us going forward as Apple users and Apple fans. Developers, though, as excited as you are, I'm sure, about porting your games over to iOS, please, please, please don't forget Game Center achievements. I have been collecting since the early days of iOS gaming, and more so since the launch of Apple Arcade. And I think also this is going to dramatically change what the service looks like this time next year. So fingers crossed. Really, really exciting times. Also, we know that the iPhone 15 Pro is packed. One thing that has fallen under the radar for a lot of people is the inclusion of a Thread radio, so that your iPhone Pro becomes a Thread border router for quicker communication between it and your smart home devices. It could, however, be the start of a transition away from Bluetooth, instead offering a system with a persistent connection to accessories or peripherals like future Apple Watches. And finally, the reason you're going to want the biggest phone. Back to cameras, that is, of course, the addition of the 5 times 120 millimeter equivalent telephoto lens, which uses a spherical circular tetraprism lens that folds and bounces the light 4 times through a prism, meaning greater light sensitivity than a typical periscope lens within a negligible housing. And this is some incredible engineering, and the lens is going to run at f2.8. Apple called this the equivalent of 7 camera lenses in your pocket. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, but I guess it does get across the ability you've got to capture everything from a macro level to that 5 times 120 millimeter zoom. And I think they illustrated it by showing you what 120 millimeter zoom lens would look like, which looked absolutely huge. So to have all that power just in your iPhone 15 Pro that fits in your pocket is absolutely amazing. So I think this is going to be fantastic for all those amateur photographers out there. Yeah, fantastic update, and amazing what you can pack into a small iPhone these days.
Yeah, and I think that is the point that clinched it for me against Devon on our predictions. Now, of course, with the event behind us, our intentions going into the keynote versus what we actually ordered today or didn't order, as the case may be. Amjad, what did you go with and why?
So I was always going to upgrade this year. I'm on an iPhone 12 Pro. I was really looking forward to get all the incremental features that I've missed in the iPhone 13, iPhone 14, as well as everything that's come with the iPhone 15. Managed to pre-order in the end after a lot of trouble, and I've gone for a iPhone 15 Pro, 128 gig in natural titanium.
Lovely.
What about yourself, Sigmund?
Well, I always go for the larger sizes, mainly for the reason that I want to be able to shoot RAW, and obviously the 128 gigabyte doesn't allow you to do that because of the limit in storage. And I'm a hoarder. I'm a digital hoarder, I'll admit it. However, my intention this year going into the keynote, and probably up until the last 10 or so minutes, I was very happy with my iPhone 14 Pro. Knowing, as you do, that my intention is to fly out to the US next year and pick up the Apple Vision Pro at the first opportunity. I need to be able to capture spatial video. I think it's going to be such an important and intrinsic part of the future of Apple's products going forward, and also the future of technology and the way we consume media and our memories. And therefore, I was hunting around for an iPhone 15 Pro Max, 512 gigabytes in black titanium, mainly for the reason that I can hide this upgrade pretty well, because it looks, at least from the pictures on Apple's website, very similar to the current iPhone 14 Pro Max that I have. That said, it's been a really, really exciting week personally. Obviously, it's been my 40th birthday. I have a new sofa arriving. I have lots of things happening, but I also have lots of questions in terms of how big those files are going to be, if that is the main reason that I'm picking it up. Can spatial video files be edited in any way beyond the initial editing that was demoed on the Apple Vision Pro? And honestly, this year I didn't enjoy the frenzy. It was quite difficult to be able to get hold of the phone that you wanted in the color you wanted right away this time round. And I don't know, actually, I know the color that I wanted, but I wasn't too sure about whether I needed 1 terabyte or 512. So once I get that information and that becomes readily available, hopefully when the reviews come out mid-week, before the iPhone launch, I'll have a better idea, and hopefully I can pick one up by heading to my local Apple store, for which I'm blessed to have probably 5 or 6 dotted around me. So that said, I didn't purchase anything yet, but I plan to. The other reason is, of course, there is so much going on in the world of Apple next week. We had the announcement that we'd be seeing the release of iOS 17, iPad OS 17, Apple Watch OS 10, along with tvOS 17 and updates to the HomePod September 18th, this coming Monday. I'm working at the moment, beavering away on a review for tvOS 17, which you can look forward to, along with a extended conversation with a couple of friends of mine, which will be revealed in due course. But for now, I wanted to just have a small overview on what we can expect for tvOS 17. Just a little bit of a reminder, really. The big things to point out: a new control center, which really adapts with whatever mode you're in. Might take a little bit of getting used to for some people, but I find it to be quite intuitive after questioning the new control center early on, honestly. Shared spatial audio via AirPods, something that has been a long time wish for many of us, and we can now tick that off the list. It had actually been testing every year, probably for the last 4 years, and disappeared after like beta 1 or 2. Now we're seeing it come finally, and it's amazing. The only thing that is lacking is obviously when you have shared spatial audio, you don't have the ability for head tracking. It is just a permanent position, which actually I prefer. I never quite got the head tracking idea and why that was a benefit, but there you go. Some people will love it. And in terms of tracking, you also have the Siri remote, which you can now find through Find My. Very, very cool. But the two big things, based on requests of mine, is what I was told at WWDC on the final night, which made me very, very happy. Native VPN support, which right now I don't think ExpressVPN or NordVPN or any of the big players have anything just yet, but there are a number of VPN services that have seen test flighting their apps ready for launch. And obviously the big feature, I think, is going to be FaceTime with continuity camera coming to Apple TV. It really does transform the TV experience, and especially SharePlay. So, of course, you can make video calls with friends and family, but you can also share your media, whether that is a live game of MOS, which I think us two, especially, we're going to have to do that soon. I see you nodding. I'm going to hold you to that promise. The one thing I would say, though, is a little bit finicky setting up right now, because obviously your iPhone isn't your permanent device that you're going to have as part of your setup, and therefore you need a good mount. You've had limited experience during beta season with FaceTime. What did you think about initially the setup process, and have you got a mount in mind that you've purchased ready?
Yeah, so I've tried it with my iPad. So I think connecting it wasn't too bad. It was relatively straightforward. It's quite intuitive when you open FaceTime on the TV. It connected quite quickly. As you say, I think the tricky thing will be is how you position either your iPad or your iPhone as that camera. And I think you definitely do need to get a mount of some sort. So I've not looked at it in detail. Any ideas what you could use as a mount?
So last episode, I think we, or maybe the episode before on Magic Rays of Light, Devon and I linked to a few mounts. The one that I think is probably the most accessible and probably the most worth it with regard to its functionality, because you can literally just hook it up to any kind of like 1/4-inch screw or anything that you would expect on a film set, right? But obviously could be working on in the home and could connect to any stand, really, if you didn't want a permanent solution. Is a mount that is made from Moment, which I'll link in the show notes. Is what I use in the home theater right now. Imagine having an 138-inch screen. Where do you put that mount? And where would you mount your phone? That can be a bit of a task. Of course, features will be limited depending on what hardware you run. So you might find a reason to upgrade if you don't currently have the most recent Apple TV and Siri remote for the Find My feature. I know everyone loses their remote down the side of the couch, so that might be reason to upgrade enough. And talking of enough, I think it's enough talk about hardware and what we're going to install on Apple TV. Let's talk about what we're going to watch on Apple TV. Time to talk some trailer talk, Amjad. We received yet another stunning full-length trailer for Martin Scorsese's upcoming Apple original film Killers of the Flower Moon, which I know you had some thoughts on earlier this week, but what everyone's talking about this week is the return of Ronald D. Moore's Space Race Odyssey for All Mankind Season 4, which rockets into the new millennium in the 8 years since Season 3. Happy Valley has rapidly expanded its footprint on Mars by turning former foes into partners, and Helios are recruiting.
They say we're running out of resources, that we won't be able to fix things. Well, they don't know that we are the resources. So when the universe calls, Helios answers. We build with other nations. We find new hope. Our future depends on us. Their future depends on us. We all want to find our place in this universe. We all want to leave a legacy. Destiny awaits. Come join us on Mars.
So, a great teaser for what we can expect going forward. This show started in 2019, so we've had a few years with these characters. How much have you enjoyed the show so far, and what have we got to look forward to in the future?
I think it's a really fantastic show, both the casting, the actors, and just how you can follow them through all the various different decades and see how they've aged, how the younger characters who were kids have grown up, and how they all interact, and what could have been in a potentially parallel universe. So yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. And season 4 sees us returning to Mars, and the focus turns to the capturing and mining of extremely valuable mineral-rich asteroids that could change the future of both Earth and Mars. So there's going to be simmering tensions between the residents of the now sprawling international base, which threatens to undo everything they're working towards. The teaser itself I thought was interesting because we saw lots of different and new characters that we've not seen before. So there weren't many familiar faces, so it was really intriguing to see how they're all going to fit into the existing cast. But there was one cast member who looked very familiar, albeit a bit older at the end. Ed Baldwin. What did you think of him, Sigmund?
The state of him and the makeup. You know, I remember the first episode of season 3, right, and seeing everyone aged. And I laughed a lot because I found it to be really campy when the show had been really serious up until that point. But the whole wedding in space and everything else, there was definitely different elements. This looks to be more sticking to the serious side of things, even though we know Ronald D. Moore loves to poke fun and have some fun with his shows. That said, For All Mankind Season 4 will make its highly anticipated global debut on Friday, November 10th, followed by one new episode weekly every Friday through January 12th of next year. So we've got quite a journey ahead of us across not just your Apple TV, but all of your screens. That wasn't the only trailer that we got this week, though, Amjad. Lessons in Chemistry. A brilliant chemist turned famous TV host. You've never met anyone like Elizabeth Zott. Based on the best-selling novel, this is our first look at Lessons in Chemistry.
That's perfect.
I like to cook. It's just chemistry.
You're on the verge of a major scientific breakthrough.
This institution has a reputation based on the world-class scientists, not the theories of a pretty lab tech.
We have rules.
You're firing me.
Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times. I would like to offer you a job as the host of our cooking show.
Are you concussed?
No. You are poised to become a TV star.
Welcome to the final show.
We're live in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, viewers. This is Supper at 6.
Quite the trailer. What did you think, and what can we expect?
The trailer looked absolutely fascinating. It's set in the early 1950s, and it follows Elizabeth Zott, played by Brie Larson, whose dream of being a scientist is put on hold in a patriarchal society. When she finds herself fired from her job, she accepts a job as a host on a TV cooking show, and she sets out to teach a nation of overlooked housewives and the men who are suddenly listening a lot more than recipes.
Yeah, I think you can tell that just through the trailer. Quite daring considering the time that this is set. This stars alongside Brie Larson, Lewis Pullman, NAACP Image Award winner Aja Naomi King, Stephanie Koenig, Kevin Sussman, Patrick Walker, and Thomas Mann, and is produced for Apple TV Plus by Apple Studios, with Lee Eisenberg serving as showrunner, with Susanna Grant executive producing alongside Brie Larson and Sarah Adina Smith, serving as director and executive producer of the first 2 episodes. Lessons in Chemistry premieres October 13th on Apple TV Plus across all of your screens. I think this is going to be the perfect pairing with The Marvels, which will also see Brie Larson return to the big screen. We also got a new look at The Buccaneers, which finally has a premiere date of November 8th. And in October, we have some news on something that we can look forward to on the spooky side. The Enfield Poltergeist will debut on Apple TV Plus this spooky season. It's produced by Metfilm and is a 4-part documentary series directed by Jerry Rothwell, which tells a chilling true story of the world's most famous poltergeist case through original audio recordings made inside the infamous house as events unfolded. The series dissects the original 1977 haunting from which The Conjuring 2 got its inspiration. So definitely not one for the weak of heart, and probably not for young eyes either, or anyone that gets spooked easily. On the more family-friendly side of Halloween, Apple TV Plus officially announced a fun-filled autumn slate for all new kids and family programming, featuring both CG and stop-motion animation offerings, including brand new series Curses, launching October 27th, Season 2 of Interrupting Chicken, premiering September 29th, and a new Shape Island Halloween special debuting October 20th. Curses comes from DreamWorks Animation and tells the story of a generations-long family curse which turns Alex Vanderhoven to stone. It's up to his 2 kids, Pandora and Ross, and his wife Sky to return artifacts stolen by their ancestors to their rightful homes to finally lift the curse for good. The series is created and executive produced by Jim Copperund and Jeff Dixon, with The Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2's John Krasinski writing and executive producing alongside frequent collaborator Alison Seeger. Of course, lots of dates as always. You can find them all in the free calendar linked in the show notes and formatted for Siri. Moving away from originals though, we have some Apple TV 4K upgrades that are expected to come to libraries in September. Amjad is here with the list.
We have The Exorcist from William Friedkin and The Pianist. And already upgraded this month, we have A Bronx Tale, 30th Anniversary Edition, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, Blood and Black Lace, The Last Dragon, Paranormal Activity 4, Paranormal Activity The Marked Ones, and Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
Now, I don't know if you buy a lot on the TV app. I do. These 4K upgrades that obviously were introduced many years ago, still happening, still incredible value in the TV app, and a feature that I love. Back to originals though, we have a little bit of in-production news. The upcoming French Apple original series Carême is set to begin filming in Paris later next month, with filming set to wrap in April of next year. The series is set to tell the exciting story of Antonin Carême, a man in Napoleon's Europe who dreamt of only one thing: to become the most famous chef in the world and revolutionize gastronomy. And finally, the upcoming romantic sci-fi Fingernails will now make its European debut in Switzerland at Zurich Film Festival on September 28th.
Of course, lots to look forward to on Apple TV in the future, but let's talk about this week's releases, starting with Apple Arcade.
This week's Apple Arcade release on September 15th is Japanese rural life adventure, a cozy life simulation game presented in a gorgeous and carefully crafted pixel art style. One to definitely check out, but I'll be doing so whilst checking out some podcasts. And I say podcasts because we have two. Not only do we have the Foundation companion podcast, but we have a new Apple original podcast debuting this Monday. Magnificent Jerk, hosted by journalist Maya Lynn Sugarman, formerly of the Washington Post, follows Lynn Sugarman on a journey that starts with a box of her late uncle's forgotten screenplays and leads to her discovering that he was a leader of a Chinese gang, that he went to jail, and in a final twist, that he poured his incredible life story into a screenplay that was then turned into a low-budget action movie starring Rob Lowe, Burt Reynolds, and Ice-T. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about this story as each episode releases weekly. But before that, I'm looking forward to some sport. We have Friday Night Baseball, Tampa Bay Rays at Baltimore Orioles at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Philadelphia Phillies at St. Louis Cardinals starting 1 hour later at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then this weekend, we have the continuation of MLS Season Pass, now just $29 for the rest of the season, as really the drama takes place. Game pick this weekend, the New York Derby on Saturday, September 16th. On Apple TV Plus on Friday, we have the finale for Foundation. I said wow for the pre-finale. I'm saying a big wow this week. We'll talk about that in a moment. We also have a new episode of The Changeling, followed on Wednesday by new episodes of The Morning Show, Invasion, the penultimate episodes of Physical and Strange Planet, and the debut of The Supermodels with all episodes. Some short highlights though. We weren't able to talk about The Morning Show last week when Devon was with me due to the embargo, which didn't lift until premiere day. I really enjoyed the first two episodes. I feel like the series brings in a different dynamic this time. If you haven't seen it yet, a hack occurs, which is about to cause as much chaos as you could imagine over the next 8 episodes. Really, really excited about that. But I think your highlight this week has got to be the finale to Foundation. Of course, we're going to go spoiler-free on just this brief summary. But tell me what you thought about this season so far.
Yeah, Foundation has been absolutely amazing this season, Sigmund. It's carried on from its season debut last year and got off to an absolutely amazing start, and it's been a roller coaster journey all the way through, and an absolutely fantastic ending with the last 3 episodes and the final episode which aired on Friday. Yeah, no spoilers, but absolutely gripping all the way through. Amazing acting, fantastic stars, amazing visuals. Yeah, an absolutely must watch for anyone with Apple TV Plus.
For fans of Foundation, there is an extra that I wanted to point out, available on YouTube, Extending Worlds, Space Escapes from Foundation's Galactic Empire. A great short, highly recommend checking out. You've put here, needs to be an Apple TV screensaver. Couldn't agree more. However, if you're a fan, check out a book that's coming out through Titan Books on the world of Foundation. I'll link that in the show notes. Available for pre-order and available to own digitally or in physical form in the middle of next month. We end every episode with our Up Next picks from the TV app. Amjad, make this a good one. This is the way to bow out on your second appearance on Magic Rays of Light. How are people going to remember you?
No pressure whatsoever, Sigmund. Thank you very much for that. So I'd probably choose a film I watched recently at the cinema with the family called Blue Beetle. This is directed by Manuel Soto and is around a character called Jamie Reyes, who suddenly finds himself in possession of an ancient relic of alien biotechnology called the Scarab. And the Scarab chooses Jamie to be its symbiotic host. And as you'd expect in a superhero movie, it gives him incredible superhero powers, and he has to fight the traditional bad guy. But what I found amazing about this film and what the kids really enjoyed was the level of humour. So it's not really focused on the main character himself, albeit he's a major part. It's all about the ancillary characters, his sort of father, his mum, his grandma, and some really amazing, really fantastic one-liners in there. So I think it's a really good family film, suitable for both adults and children of all ages. Highly recommended, and you should go check it out.
I actually have 3 picks this week that I wanted to talk about very, very quickly. 3 very, very different picks. The first is Past Lives, starring Greta Lee, Yo Teo, and John Magaro, directed by Celine Song, who during lockdown actually had a drama opera via Sims, which you can check out. I'm going to link in the show notes. This is a step up. This is, I believe, the directorial debut proper from a director who had before only really worked in theatre. And it's about 2 childhood sweethearts, after decades apart, reunited for one fateful week in New York as they confront notions of destiny, love, and the choices that make a life in this heart-rending modern romance. I will tell you, this is a beautiful, beautiful film. I think it's going to be in the short running for awards, especially in writing and directing. I'm talking Academy Awards. It's that strong, and comes from A24, who of course picked up the most awards with Everything Everywhere All at Once last year. Very different tonally, but a romantic film that asks a lot of questions and gives as many answers. It's just really, really beautiful. Cinematography as well, just mwah, chef's kiss. My other pick is something completely different, which I didn't realise was coming to the TV app until it showed up in my Up Next queue after I had pre-added it, waiting for it to become available. And that is Talk to Me. It's an Australian horror about a group of friends who discover how to conjure spirits with an embalmed hand. They become hooked on the new thrill as everyone gets out their phones to film as they contact these spirits, until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. This is both eye-popping, nightmarish, and an incredible debut from Australian twin filmmakers and horror sensations Danny and Michael Philippou. Honestly, this is one to check out as soon as it becomes available. I think it's still airing in cinemas in the UK and in the US. Again, another release from A24, which honestly is by pure coincidence. And my final pick this week isn't actually in the TV app, but it's on YouTube. This is a week that we all get excited and we get to see our favourite tech YouTubers grace our screens with the latest information. And someone that has been missing in recent times from that conversation is someone I've looked up to and been entertained by for many, many years. I think the GOAT and really the original tech YouTuber, Jonathan Morrison, who you will know for TLD today, who posted a video this week talking about his recent health issues to do with his sight, which of course is important for a filmmaker. He's also incredibly talented when it comes to music and incredibly supportive of fellow creatives throughout YouTube and the tech space and music. Just someone that has consistently just been a really good guy, and my thoughts were with him, and I really, really appreciated him coming out this week and really just being brave and honest. And that's going to help so many other people that are going through something similar, whether that's today, whether that's in the past, or way into the future. That video is going to live in memory. And that is just as powerful as any narrative-driven, scripted film or TV show that we've spoken about this week. Of course, this has been a fantastic episode. There's been a lot to delve into and get through. I think we've done it, Amjad. Before we go, is there anything you wanted to say, and where can people find you?
Just say thank you, Sigmund. It's been another fantastic experience chatting with you about all things Apple, especially in this really busy week. You can find myself on Twitter, X, or whatever it's called these days. I'm at Apple Watcher, APPL Watcher. Really enjoyed talking Apple with you.
And it's been a pleasure having you back on Magic Rays of Light. Contact Amjad on social media and myself via the links in the show notes. And you can email the show or send us an iMessage to morolfm@screentimes.net. Magic Rays of Light will be back in 2 weeks' time to talk tvOS 17, Apple Originals, and the world of Apple TV. So until then, stay safe, watch some Apple TV, play some Apple Arcade, and a happy iPhone launch day for everyone involved next week.